Hey there, bibliophiles and those raising bibliophiles. Without ratings and warning labels, finding which books are appropriate for your children to read is like navigating the wild terrain without a map and a compass. I don't know about you, but I have been burned more than once handing my child a book that I thought was clean and appropriate. I'm a fellow mom, educator, reading specialist, and literary enthusiast, trying to find great books for my children and yours to read. If you're looking for real reviews from a real mom with a biblical worldview, then welcome and enjoy this week's book review. This week's book review is Hideout by Wat Key, and this book is recommended ages 10 and up. Depending on your reader, you may want to go a little bit older than that. Hide by Wat Key is a middle grade adventure book with an element of spook as the main character is traveling the bayou. Sam is on summer break and he's having a difficult time with the way the school year ended. Relatively new to the area for about a year, he cannot come to grips with why he was beaten mercilessly by two bullies at school who were closely aiming for his friend Grover as their target. Unfortunately, as a result of this event, Sam is trying to avoid Grover as he believes that his friendship with him is what caused him to be a victim of the bullies. Before I get into too many more details about this particular book, I want to give you just a little glimpse of the writing style. So I'm just going to read a little bit of the opening. I slowed my skiff at the mouth of Bluff Creek and started over the Pascagoula River. The far shore was a looming wall of cypress trees and densely tangled underbrush, casting a long morning shadow over the black water. I set aside my new fishing rod and pulled a map of Jackson County, Mississippi from my pocket. I spread it on the seat and studied it. The Pascagoula River Delta was a broad, uninhabited marsh dictated by a swath of green and hashed as wetlands. There were no other markings on the map for miles except a few red dots that I assumed were the old fishing camps. There was no roads and there was no way into the place except by small boat, and somewhere in that enormous swamp was a dead body. Dad had mentioned the swamp to me a few times, sort of like you talk about the moon. It was a place looked at from a distance, a mysterious place one never imagines going to. I fished in the Delta once or twice with your granddad when I was a kid, he said. Back then, you'd see people out there. That was before the conservation groups bought up the land and condemned the camps. It's easy to get lost. Cell phones don't work. You get in a fix, and it's a long way to help. I studied the river again. I had my flotation vest on in case I fell overboard or sank. I had a flare kit and a whistle in case I broke down. Dad is chief of police for Pascagoula, and he'd made sure I had every possible safety item. The only thing I didn't have was his permission to leave Bluff Creek. He never actually said how far I could go, considering I'd only gotten the boat a week before on my 12th birthday, and I wasn't the type of kid you'd expect to do foolish things. I doubt it crossed his mind that I would venture far from home. But I wasn't the kid I used to be. Even though school had been out for a while, the fight stayed over me like a blanket of sickness that seemed impossible to get out from under. The school counselor told me I'd feel better over time, but I didn't believe him. When I talked to his calm face and tried to tell him what I was feeling, all I could think was that he couldn't possibly understand. Forget the physical pain. It was the humiliation that hurt the most. So I just started telling him and my parents what they wanted to hear, that I was fine, that I no longer thought about it, that the session stopped, and I was left to figure it all out for myself. There's not much to figure out. Trying to make friends in a new town is already hard. Add getting beat senseless in front of the entire school, and things look hopeless. So that just gives you a little taste of the writing style, a little bit into the main character, Sam, and what he's feeling and what he's going through as the story opens. An easy escape for Sam, with all the things that he's thinking about, is the new boat that his parents bought him for his 12th birthday. In recent news, an abandoned boat was found with blood on it, and so search and rescue boats are sort of patrolling the area as they're searching for a body. In an attempt to prove to himself that he is brave, Sam intends to find the missing body. And in his search, he actually finds a boy his same age named Davy among the ruins of the old fishing camps. Davy's alone, waiting for his brother and his father to arrive. However, it has been a week thus far, and he's had little to eat and drink. It's here that Sam begins to hide secrets, not only from his exploration in an area of the bayou his parents have not approved of, but is keeping of Davy's secrets and whereabouts. Sam lies to his parents that he is with Grover when in fact he's out in the woods far away without anyone's knowledge of where he is. Eventually, Davy's brother does appear, but he is not a friendly guy. In fact, he's robbed a fish market and he's growing marijuana in a nearby area. Sam's involvement gets him far more than he bargained for. The novel ultimately ends well, but there is a lot of drama as Sam is trying to emotionally process trauma, his friendship with Grover and Davy, as well as navigating who he thinks he is or who he should be. So this novel, like I said, is recommended ages 10 and up, mainly 10 to 13. I would certainly probably be a little more conservative and go 12, 13 plus. There is profanity in this book, and some of the issues presented could be a bit much for younger readers. Additionally, the main characters themselves are 12 years old, and one of the great aspects of the story is that despite the trouble Sam gets himself in, the novel actually portrays strong parental influences from his mother and father, who clearly have a healthy, loving relationship. So, there is a bit of a moral compass for Sam from his parents, and they also attend church on a regular basis. Now, I'm going to give you some specifics of the book itself because there is quite a bit in here, but I do want to encourage you also to go to my website at holdingsteadfastreaders.com to get more information about the book, and in particular, there are some things that I'm not going to go into detail with, and you'll find those things on my written review. And my goal ultimately is to give parents the information that you need to make the right choice for your readers. So one of the first things I do want to talk about is there is profanity in this book, and quite a bit profanity. And so while I don't normally care for that, especially with adolescent readers, I will say that I do appreciate that Walkie includes it for particular characters. And so the inclusion of it isn't entirely unfounded. There are a few instances where Sam and Grover actually use profanity, but they're confronting each other and they're really dealing with a lot of hurt and anger. Otherwise, the profanity is really centered around the bullies and all the nefarious characters in the story, and that they're the ones that are talking. And you will find the details of which words appear in the book and on what page you can see those. So definitely check out my written review for that information. You do have a little bit of like the creepy spookiness in the story. There are some descriptions that might be a little bit much for younger readers. So I want to encourage you again to go to my written review to find out more of those details, especially as we have Sam looking for a dead body. And then there is later in the story, he does come across the dead body, and it is Davy's father that he was hoping was going to come and see him. But we find out at the end of the story that while Davy's father was on his way to see him, he had a heart attack. There's a lot of great quotes, especially between Sam and his father as he's learning to navigate just a lot of the issues of growing up and the things that he's been through. We also see internal struggle between him and Grover. And fortunately, his mom really encourages Sam to go and speak with Grover. And it's really important because it allows some reconciliation in that. And it also presents a moment for Grover, who really is alone. Grover's parents, by the end of the story, are planning to get a divorce. Grover is coming from a very wealthy family, but he's very much alone. And so he's not really sure, how to handle that himself. And so I think he's really just ignoring a lot of it as he's cared for kind of by like a nanny. And then Sam is really struggling with how to reach Grover to really talk about things, but there is reconciliation in the story, and Grover does make an attempt to hurt himself. So just to kind of give you some more details about that, but you'll find more details of that in my written review. He ends up taking a boat that he doesn't really know how to drive, and so he gets into an accident with that. But he does talk about how he's really hurting. And fortunately, Sam is encouraged by his mom to really reach out to Grover. Overall, I really did enjoy this story. There are many good themes and messages as Sam, like I said, is working through some emotional and physical trauma. Sam's family is also a strong family, and that is definitely a foil to the one that Grover and Davy experiences. Davy has had some harmful experiences in prior foster care, so he's afraid to go back, and that's part of the secrets that Sam is holding. And fortunately, by the end of the story, we do see strong leadership and a new family for Davy himself. There is strong male leadership and influences throughout the story that combat the negative ones that are presented. So I really appreciate that as a story that there is that balance. And then again, despite the profanity and some of the negative and dark imagery, I do think this novel could appeal to many young adult readers. And it does present some positive messages that I think is worth a read. Again, 12, 13, maybe at the youngest. But I could see some, high school students age enjoying this story and all the things that are presented in it. And again, please check out my written review. You'll get more details about the profanity that's present in the story, and it's definitely done purposefully for the particular characters that Walkie is developing. But overall, hopefully that book review is helpful for you, and that you will join me next week for another book review.